You're welcome back on our discussion segment today. Commuters in Enugu State were left stranded on Tuesday as swollen fuel scarcity gripped the state capital, forcing many petrol stations to shut down around midday. Motorists were unable to access premium motor spirit and were left stranded on major roads, while some turned to black market vendors charging up to 1,500 naira per litre. Meanwhile, on September 7th, it was reported that Dangote Petroleum Refinery banned new drivers from joining unions, which prompted Nupeng'S workers to threaten a nationwide strike. According to a report, Nupeng'S workers suspended its two-day strike following a meeting with the Dangote Group on Tuesday. But Nigerians are still asking if this marks the end of fuel scarcity or just another post in a recurring crisis. Joining me now to discuss this aftermath is Mr. Okenwa Ephraim, Executive Director, Lead Network Africa. You're welcome, sir. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
All right. For what it is, it was seen that labor unions had to intervene before the strike was suspended. Now, my question is, what do you think labor associations always wait for strikes to disrupt the country before stepping into act?
Well, I think that really shows to a very great extent lack of what we call proactivity, ability to be able to, before it can dovetail or mature to like a full-blown strike. Usually there will be like some signals. Sometimes it's written, it is formalized, telling those in charge that if so conditions are not met, that we mean fairness to all of the stakeholders that are involved, that within a time, they are going to go into like a strike action, and if that is not done, this is when we now have like the kind of disruptive one we had yesterday, and I myself like experienced the impact. It was really very terrible, like trying to drive around in search of fuel, and at some point of the fuel in my vehicle caught up, and I had to quickly buy gallons to go look for fuel, and it was not a funny experience.
Yeah. All right, in regards to how difficult it was yesterday, some of these filling stations had reserves before the strike was announced, but they had the fuel at a ridiculous amount yesterday. Would you say this was driven by the scarcity or by greediness?
Well, certainly not greed, because just like everything, like when you talk about in a real market, you talk about market forces. And market force in this particular case is that when you disrupt the supply of fuel, when you have all the tanker drivers say, you know what, we are not going to be available for the distribution, then by implication, fuel is going to be very scarce. And when you have less supply in the market, that of course will also impact on the cost. So they're already preparing for two things. Number one, understanding that you are not going to get that supply as you used to, and as such, selling at the old price, it's going to really be like a kind of, it's going to disadvantage you, because apart from the fact that there is a disruption in flow, you don't even know when next you're going to begin to get fuel. So you are actually prepared for the rainy day, save it up, and then sell like at what the market demands. And so it's just everything about basic economics and has nothing to do with the greed.
All right. For the signing of agreement that happened yesterday, would you say it's a permanent thing, a temporary thing, or was it just made to decrease the frustration of Nigerians?
Well, basically, I think what we can pick out of all of it, yes, we know there is the political dimension, and I think reasonably expected that was able to, fastly and speedily bring this problem to a halt, at least for the time being. The sustainability will be a function of the outcomes of an ongoing conversations, because yesterday is just like, okay, let's quickly resolve this and then get to the table. And so whatever great outcome that means sustainability, should be one that Nigerians can look up to as a solution in the right direction.
Okay. We've seen the back and forth between Dangote and petroleum marketers, and this has shown lack of unity between them. What impact do you think this will have on the long run?
Well, what I could tell the marketers is, let them be patriotic in all of the things they're doing. You see, like Dangote's refinery and his emergence in the field has disrupted the sector. And I can tell you, the fact that many are not comfortable, and by the way, sometimes what you just have is some personal interest leveraging on some platforms to register their displeasure and coming under the guise that this is all marketers endorsing this. Yeah. I know some marketers also may want to buy Nigeria, patronize Nigeria, do things that we ensure that the very fact that we own oil as a country, it should be affordable, right? Yeah. Even so much in a nation where people not only have to power their vehicles, but sometimes power their generator, power to pump water and do all kinds of things, because an average home in Nigeria is a republic. In some regard, you just have to do a whole lot for yourself. And so they should be patriotic. That's what I would say, because when you think about the thing that Dangote is bringing to the table, better fuel, empirically proven, right? Yeah. Affordable costs, like challenging some costs and stuff like that. The average marketers who build, some very strong alliances beyond the shores of the country, you don't expect them to be comfortable, but they should be able to look at a long strategy, right? To begin to think of how can we even begin as a nation, right? How can they change their, retool their business from that of just importing finishing product, which is counterproductive in the sense that as a nation, we are long overdue to be producing our own oil, and instead let the marketing strategy be retooled to sell to other nations, right? Yeah. They should be thinking in that light, and not just a situation where, during the days of subsidy, just try to be part of the scheme, the subsidy scam, right? Try to be among the scheme that we claim we imported so millions cubic feet of oil in a day, and at the end of the day, it turns out not to be real.
Okay. So what role would you say the government has played in all of this crisis, or what role should the government play in this crisis?
So government, of course, it stands there for the welfare of the people. And part of the welfare of the people is that, the government should be able to create, enabling environment through policies, through interventions, through proactive, putting certain structures and templates, to ensure that such disruptive events do not come up momentarily, because that has a way of disrupting economic activities and impacting the entire economic landscape at the end of the day. So the government of the day should be very proactive. When you have critical stakeholders pointing at one or two things, it will be time to really get them on the table, look at all the sides, right? Because there is always two sides of the story. For Dangote drivers and Dangote as a company, perhaps they may have their reservations, right? Yeah. So a situation maybe Nupeng'S wants to I don't want to use the word bully them into, submission, but use some kind of coercions, right? To get them to the table may not be the only approach, right? There could be room for dialogue, look at the sides of the story, and then are there some things that could be objections on the part of some other private players that may think that this might not represent the best interest of the employee. When all of these things are now looked on the table, then, there should be reconciliations all for the progress of the nation.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And that's what we have for you on the news today. Do all to follow us on our social media platforms at Afia TV Official. I'm Joan Udeniwu. Good afternoon.